A lot has happened since the Supreme Court's decision to roll back reproductive rights in America. 14 states have now banned most abortions, leaving a third of all childbearing Americans with no access to the procedure. 66 clinics have stopped offering abortions, and 26 clinics have closed entirely. It's important to note that abortion providers usually offer a range of reproductive services like contraception and maternal health care. So, in this reproductive healthcare void, a growing number of crisis pregnancy centers are opening their doors, and they are not all what they appear to be. So, what are CPCs, and how are they connected to disinformation? Chances are you've seen an ad for a CPC and might not have realized it. They go by different names: pregnancy resource centers, life care clinics, or simply pregnancy services. They're clinics meant to look like real medical offices.
What they don't say is that they're not trying to give people their options. They're trying to pressure people to not get abortions. They're trying to pressure people into carrying pregnancies to term, no matter what they want.
That's Carrie Baker. She's a professor of women and gender studies at Smith College and an attorney, as well as a journalist who covers reproductive rights for Ms. Magazine.
For some people, maybe they do provide some support if they want to go through with their pregnancies. For people that don't, and often they end up with misinformation and medically inaccurate information that can certainly dissuade them from abortion, but also can put their health at risk.
CPCs are nonprofits, usually run by religious organizations whose primary goal is to keep people from terminating their pregnancies. They spread across the country in the decades following the Supreme Court's landmark 1973 decision, Roe v. Wade. Today, there are more than 2,500 CPCs across the U.S. What are CPCs doing that are misinforming or willfully disinforming the women that come into these centers?
Crisis pregnancy centers give themselves names like options or women's choices or, medical sounding language. And then when you get on their website, they have people wearing medical scrubs. They use medical equipment like ultrasounds or, other equipment that lead people to believe that they're medical clinics. They don't charge for their services, so they target young people and low-income people who can't afford to go to a regular medical provider or who are just looking for free services.
While CPCs offer maternity clothes and diapers and parenting classes, they've also been known to dole out medically inaccurate information. According to the American Medical Association, CPCs provide counseling that, quote, falls outside accepted medical standards and guidelines for providing evidence-based information and treatment options.
Crisis pregnancy centers tell pregnant people that abortion causes cancer, that it causes post-traumatic stress syndrome, that it causes infertility. Sometimes what they do is tell people that they're not as pregnant as they are, so that the people think they have more time to get to a healthcare provider. Another example is that they talk about this sort of fake medical treatment called abortion pill reversal, which ACOG has called unethical and potentially dangerous.
Abortion pill reversal is when progesterone is taken to interrupt a medication abortion. CPCs claim this is an effective way of stopping an abortion already in progress. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists says this method is scientifically unproven and does not meet clinical standards.
They're advertising this widely and promoting this. It's all about creating stigma around abortion and creating the impression that people regret abortions and that, they take pills and then all of a sudden freak out and think, oh, I have to reverse this. And there's no evidence that that is the case.
CPCs employ various tactics to get people through their doors. Their web pages closely resemble the sites of actual reproductive care clinics, and they spend a lot on digital marketing.
Crisis pregnancy centers are part of a huge anti-abortion movement that's very well funded and can afford to spend lots of money buying ads so that they show up at the top of the page. Often abortion clinics don't have that much money and are not buying ads.
CPCs were shown to have 5 times the amount of funding as legitimate abortion clinics, according to a group that monitors charitable spending. That's in addition to the millions in public funding received by CPCs in at least 29 states. How big of a role do the search engines play in this? Because that's more often than not how people look for and get information, is they type it into their phone or their browser and they say, oh, well, this is the first hit.
The search engines are very responsible at one level. Actually, Google just recently, under pressure from members of Congress, changed their map, the Google map, so that only verified abortion providers show up if a user searches for abortion. But still, they're taking ads from abortion providers that show up at the top of those searches for abortion. So they've taken some measures, but they have a long way to go.
If the crisis pregnancy centers are not medical facilities, are there privacy concerns that you have about CPCs that maybe you don't have about abortion clinics? Because usually medical centers have to comply by HIPAA regulations.
Yes. So even if they are medical centers, which are, some of them have some nurses or affiliated doctors, none of them charge for their services, and HIPAA only applies if you're giving a medical service and filing insurance claims. So HIPAA is a federal law that regulates the filing of insurance claims. And so a lot of these clinics will say, oh, we'll keep your information private, but in fact, they're not bound by law to keep your information private. Concern now post-Roe is that they could share that information with law enforcement who are going after people who might be trying to obtain abortion in states where there are bans, or potentially trying to travel out of state to get abortion in places where it's legal.
Since the Roe reversal, Congress members have introduced several pieces of legislation to protect privacy and abortion access, including the Stop Anti-Abortion Disinformation Act, which aims to prohibit false advertising by CPCs claiming to be healthcare providers. There's also the My Body, My Data Act, which would create national standards around protecting personal reproductive health data. In a letter signed by 7 senators to Heartbeat International, lawmakers expressed their concern about patient privacy and demanded to know how the anti-abortion organization uses its collected data.
So here we have members of Congress directly contacting these umbrella CPC organizations and putting them under scrutiny and saying, what's going on? What are you doing?
Even as lawmakers crack down on sources of disinformation, CPCs still vastly outnumber abortion providers by an average of 3 to 1. Thanks to public funding in states like Texas and Pennsylvania, the ratio there is more like 9 to 1.
In addition, the anti-abortion movement has declared that they're going to be opening more and more of these crisis pregnancy centers, particularly in states where abortion is legal, in order to intervene people who are traveling to those states to get the care that they need.
So here are some tips for telling abortion clinics and CPCs apart. Beware of manipulative language. Real medical clinics won't advertise with lines like, "Are you scared, confused, afraid, alone?" It's also important to check what services they provide. Real medical clinics will clearly state on their websites that they offer abortions in addition to other reproductive services. CPCs, however, will only vaguely reference your quote-unquote options while offering pregnancy tests and ultrasounds. Additionally, and I know it's counterintuitive, avoid clinics where everything is free. While many legitimate clinics offer financial assistance or take insurance and Medicaid, they still need to charge for medical services, whereas CPCs don't bear the cost of hiring certified medical professionals. And finally, be a discerning patient. Take care giving out your personal medical information because you may not know where it could end up. Until next time, I'm Hari Srinivasan, and this is Take on Fake. Thanks for watching.